So I saw this really interesting question on Quora that I wanted to talk about. It said, "Does time heal everything? My mum did a lot of bad stuff. After 5 years, she still hasn't owned up to it. No apologized to me or my siblings. My stepmom says time heals all. How do I respond?" Wow, okay, great question. Before I answer the question and I actually give you my thoughts on this, guys, please can you help me get to my goal of 1,000 subscribers by June? I'd really, really appreciate it if you can subscribe to my channel. Also, if you like the video and what I'm going to talk about, please can you like the video because it helps the algorithms, it helps increase the video and show it to more people. Right, okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, so let's get into the question. Does time heal everything? My mum did a lot of bad stuff. After 5 years, she still hasn't owned up to it or apologized to me or my siblings. My stepmom says time heals all. How do I respond? Okay, firstly, I would say that time does not heal all. Because I know people who are 50, 60, 70 years of age who things happen to them, their parents did something to them when they were in their teens, in their 30s, that they've still not forgiven. So time does not heal all, okay? It does heal some things. I think what I would say is it makes it more tolerable. Like, to give you an example of this is how I think about it. So I do open water swimming. If you've open water swimming is basically where you go out into like an ocean or a lake and you swim in the water, right? You're not swimming in a swimming pool. If the first time that you try to go and walk into water or swim in an open water, becomes absolutely freezing. The shock response kicks in. Everything in your body tells you that you should leave the water and you should get out. And most of the time, you can't probably spend more than 3 minutes for the first time, for the first 2 or 3 goes in that water. But what ends up happening is you acclimatize, right? Acclimatize doesn't mean that you don't feel the cold. Acclimatize just simply means that your body doesn't find the shock so much that it wants to literally physically get you out of the water, right? It's tolerable. You can stand it, but it isn't the ideal situation. It isn't like swimming in a swimming pool, which is warm, which is wonderful degrees, where you don't have to think about it. So that's how I would describe how healing actually works. There's always something there. It's like, you know, when you hear people say, can you ever get over the death of a parent? Not really. I don't think that you can get over the death of a parent, but it becomes easier. Can you get over, some people say, can you ever get over one of your partner passing away? No, I don't think you can. I think it gets easier over time, but that person stays with you forever, right? You will see things that remind you of them. You will certain smells that remind you of them, and all of a sudden, all of those feelings that you had before, all of a sudden engulf you and they consume you, right? Sometimes it's interesting because I've studied grief, and sometimes people who have, you know, their partner passed away 6-7 years ago, sometimes they find themselves in the middle of nowhere just crying, and they don't know why it is that they're crying. And do you know what it is? It's because they've smelt something, or they're in a certain room, or in a certain environment, and their body remembers that it's associated with that person, and they just start crying, and they don't know why it is that they're crying. So I don't think that it makes it easier. You know, I watched a video by Oprah which I found really fascinating. Oprah was explaining how her best friend, she had her best friend Gail come over to her house with her daughter, and Gail, her best friend's daughter, asked her, can I say to no sorry so Gail's daughter asked her mum if she could have strawberries, and she said, of course you can have strawberries if Auntie Oprah allows you to have strawberries. So she went over to Oprah and she said, of course I can, you can have strawberries. And Oprah then gave the strawberries to the mother. The mother, the best friend, Gail, then started getting the strawberries and cutting them meticulously and taking off the green things, the green stalks or whatever you want to call those, off the strawberries. She cut them into little pieces. And Oprah found herself crying, and Oprah didn't understand why she was crying. And what she recognized later on is that she was crying because she had never had that. She wanted somebody. She was like, oh, that's what it feels like to have a mother who loves you. That's what a mother is supposed to do. Your mum is supposed to do that for you and care for you and make things easier for you and nurture you. And she never received that as a child. And so I think healing is a really interesting arena. The other thing that I would say is I think that there has to come to a point in your healing process where you forgive the person, but you don't forgive the actions. In other words, what you do is you understand why the person did what they did. I think it's really important as part of the healing process to understand why somebody is doing what they've done. Because if you don't understand why somebody did what they did, it makes it worse. And a lot of the time, we judge people for what they do, but we judge ourselves for why we did what we've done, right? And so part of evolving as human beings in our maturity is trying to figure out, hold on a minute, why did this person do this? And part of that maturity and that developing as a human being and that entire process of understanding your parents is to get to the point where you no longer see your parents from the point of view of parents, and you see your parents from the point of view as of human beings. I'm writing this book which is about how you become a man. And in that book I say that you cannot, I say that, well, I say two things that I reiterate in that book. Number one, the source of manhood is responsibility, right? You can't say that you're a man unless you're responsible for certain things, a dog, a house, a mortgage, a wife, whatever, right? Men who are carefree, who don't want any responsibility, they're not men, right? They're boys still. And the other thing that I talk a lot about in that book is that you have to cut the ties between you and your parents in order for you to become a man. Historically, it's interesting that you could not become the man of the, if you look back at history, you were not the man of a household until your father died, historically. You became a man, or you became the man of the house when historically your father passed away. And there is a reason for that. Because a lot of us are still under the thumb of our parents. We still want their affirmation. We essentially don't stand on our 2 feet until our parents historically passed away. Now you've got to remember, our parents usually historically passed away younger, right? People are obviously now, our parents are living to 80, 90, 100 years of age. But historically, parents used to pass away in their 40s and 50s. So men used to become men at a much earlier age. But what I'm trying to say to you is that part of maturing and going through that healing process is you have to get to the point where you see your parents not as parents, but you see them as people. Because then when you see them as people, it helps you understand where there is that they were at. For example, I meet a lot of people who their parents divorced, and part of the reason why their parents divorced is because one of them cheated. And worse is one that I recently heard was one of them, somebody was saying, my mum was having an affair with a woman, and she married that woman, and she already had 2 kids with my father, and the guy was in so much pain and he was still hurting. And I explained to him, okay, I get what you're saying. Let's not see your mum from the point of view of a mum. Let's see her as a person. Now let's see what she was going through. Let's see this place. Let's see what it's like having children, getting married, and knowing deep down that you like women. Knowing deep down that you're lesbian. What is it like to live like that every day, right? Covering your life up, but dumbing down your emotions and certain pleasures and feelings. What is it like to actually live like that, right? And many of us, and part of this understanding of our parents, or the people who we perceive, who were given to us as our parents, is understanding what their parents were like, right? You know, I say this to people, there's actually another book which I'm writing, which is about the role of a parent. In that book, I talk about the fact that one of the roles of a parent is that you have to tell your children your story. Most kids only know their parents from the point of view of when they basically started becoming conscious, which is around 4 or 5 years of age. Most of us don't know our parents prior to them having us, prior to about 4 years of age. A lot of our parents lived very, very different lives before they had us, right? And so a lot of us don't actually know our parents' stories. We don't know who they are. We don't know what they were like before they had us. We don't know their baggage. We don't know their story. We don't know their narrative. We don't know what they went through. And when you start to understand what they went through, it doesn't mean that you accept what they did. There's a difference now. Accepting what they did and understanding why they did it are two very different things, right? And so when you begin to understand, oh, that's where they were at, or that's what they were going through, it helps the healing process, okay? And so what it does for you is it allows you, because, look, essentially what you're asking is that you want closure, and the way that you want closure is that you want your mum to acknowledge that what they did, why they did it, and then apologize for it, and take full accountability. Here's my point to you. Some people may never do that. Here's a problem. If your mum never does that, you're fucked. Because for the rest of your life, you're going to be living in this paradigm and from this place. So what I'm saying is, allow your parent, because some of us, we fuck up and we make errors in judgment, and actually it takes us a little while to figure out how to correct it. It takes us a little while to get to the place where we've seen all the destruction and the hurt and the pain that we've caused along the way, right? And it takes us a little minute because for you, you are not in the same growth space that she's in because you're seeing her from the point of view of your life. But like I think about myself and some of the mistakes that I made, it's taken me ages to get to this place where I'm at right now. It's taken me years. But for some people in my life, they're like, Cass, why could you not have got it together? Why could you not have got it ages ago? Well, it's taken me a little while to get my shit together and figure it out and then get on the course and then be consistent and have integrity with myself. So part of alleviating that pain is by doing what you can do and then letting her do what she has to do. And if you can understand her and you can cut the ties and understand why she did what she did, and you can forgive yourself. You know, a lot of forgiveness is, and I'm going off tangents here slightly, but I think this is important. A lot of the pain that we experience as people isn't really so much about what people have done to us, but the fact that we allowed ourselves to be in that position. I meet people who are in relationships and they say, Kasim, it's not even that I'm upset that he cheated, it's the fact that I allowed myself to get to the point where he could even cheat on me. That's what they're actually, the pain is coming from them. But they don't even realize that the pain is coming from them. And so what I'm saying to you is, if you can work on your stuff and you can forgive yourself and you can let go of and say, do you know what, I may never understand it, I may never get her, she may never apologize to me, but I've made peace with it myself. I'm okay with it. I get it. It is what it is. I hate that phrase, but there are some things that are just the way they are. Your mum may never apologize to you, but you have to be in such a place that you say, I understand what she did. I understand that space that she was in, and she may never apologize. It is what it is. So that's what I would share with you. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that helps you. I don't know whether you're at that space or that place yet in your development and your thinking. But that's if I was in your shoes, that's what I would do, and that's how I would look at it. But what do you think? Anyway, I'd love to hear from you. Like, comment below, send me a message. I'm always keen to hear people's thoughts and people's responses. But also, actually, before I finish this, I think one of the other great things is you have your stepmom. I forgot to mention about your stepmom, but isn't it great that you have somebody else in your life who's actually giving you great advice, right? And a lot of the times, we forget that not everybody is in that space. Not everybody had the same upbringing. Not everybody is in where we're at. We all have different journeys. And I know a lot of us are like, well, it's our parents are supposed to be like this, but we're all human. We all mess up. We all make mistakes. We all fuck up. And that's just the way life is. And I think a lot of us, we have to stop having such high standards for people and accept people for how they are. Not how we want them to be, but how they actually are. And that's really how you can fully accept somebody. But also, obviously, that starts with accepting it for yourself, because you can't accept other people for how they are until you've accepted yourself for how you are. So, as I say, I hope that helps you out. Thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate it. Please don't forget to like my channel, subscribe, help me reach my 1,000 subscribers by June. I really appreciate that. Guys, thanks for listening. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.